This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, after a long night of work overnight at the hospital, not everybody can say that they're going to be talking to Charlie Brown and Lucy Van Pelt. But folks, here we are on October the 12th, 2022, and I am doing just that. Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, celebrating its 45th anniversary. I would have been 5 years old that year. And I have on with me today, we have Duncan Watson, who's the voice of Charlie Brown, and we have Melanie Kohn, the voice of Lucy. How do you two do?
Greetings. Nice to be here.
And a special thank you, Melanie, for connecting me with Duncan here, because I tried to reach out to him when I was researching this and couldn't find him, but I found you and I invited you on, and you made the Duncan suggestion. So I really gotta hand it to you for bringing this trio together today. Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. And I just thought, it was appropriate because he was in the same movie. So I figured, why not have him too?
Yes, but are you going to do the Lucy thing and charge him to listen to you?
Oh, he already knows that. He'll PayPal me later.
Well, we all know that Lucy is very bossy, but she's also very kind.
There you go.
Aw.
Do you ever hold the football in place and have Duncan run at it and then pull it out of the way?
Well, we're waiting for him to get insurance for that because he's going to fall flat on his back.
We need somebody that has that green screen technology skill set, because I'm more than willing to do that. But if I'm going to do it, I want to do it like the full Monty and go running after the football and obviously have it be pulled away and go flying through the air. But I don't want to land on something hard.
That's right. And oftentimes Charlie Brown's clothes end up flying off in the midst of that. Speaking of full Monty,
that's not usually from the football pulling. That's usually from a baseball scene where he pitches the ball and it comes back at him at a rapid speed and all his clothes comes off.
Do you ever have Duncan any experience with the kite-eating tree, or did you cut that tree down?
Well, I mean, who hasn't had the kite-eating tree experience? I mean, that's what Charlie Brown, why he's so identifiable with so many people, is that the foibles that he manages to get himself into on a daily basis are the same foibles that everybody deals with at some point in their lives. And it's a lesson on what do you do when things go wrong? You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Well, you know what is really fun here is that I remember the first time I saw Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and one of the things that stood out to me is that when I was a kid, I used to go camping with my family, and of course I'm seeing the Peanuts gang going camping. They're having to deal with a trio of bullies that are trying to win this rafting race, and Charlie Brown has to get past his insecurities and be a leader. And I'm going to tell you, I noticed this with the last Peanuts movie that came out. I didn't realize what a great character Charlie Brown was, because I know there was in the recent movie that came out a few years back, any other movie would have gone the opposite way. There was a situation where he had a note in his pocket, and in any other movie, the characters would have avoided it, and there had been a catastrophe. And I forget now the details of the note, but he pulled it out and he read it, which would typically happen at the end, but it happens here. And I love the fact that it avoided stupidity and it made the character look smarter to me. You look at Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's the one that is insecure, but he's the one that has to solve all the problems. Like, for example, when they're caught on that water wheel, he has to be the one. Uh, how do you identify with Charlie Brown, Duncan?
Well, I mean, I don't feel like I inhabit Charlie Brown as much as, as much as Charlie Brown sort of represents, uh, you know, a lot of kids, at those ages growing up and having identity issues and trying to figure out who they are and what they're going to be and all of their absurd hopes and aspirations. And there's not a cynicism, necessarily. I mean, there's a resignation about certain things that things are going to happen certain ways. But I think that's sort of based on life experience. And so I find that, for me, I've heard, people refer to Charlie Brown as a loser, more times than I can possibly count. And, I think it's more nuanced and complex than that. I mean, I think that Charlie Brown, is more of a lovable loser. And really at the end of it, when you think about Charlie Brown, deeply, you realize that Charlie Brown is actually the ultimate optimist. That,
Yep.
How could somebody, keep trudging on, after all the misfortune that happens, day after day. And it's a lesson about, life in general, that, most things will be okay, but not everything will be okay. And you have to find some acceptance and grace in the things that don't go okay.
Absolutely. Well, Melanie,
Poor
you, of course,
Charlie Brown.
yeah, and Charlie Brown too, was not a loser when it came right down to it. Because somehow either him or Snoopy, one or the other, and let's face it, Snoopy is an attachment to Charlie Brown, just like my cat Skittles is an attachment to me, although Skittles doesn't do anything. He doesn't accept any shifts at the hospital. He calls in lazy every day. So I have to do it. But nonetheless, I think Charlie Brown is not a blockhead. He's not a loser. He's actually a full-blown winner, And I think I love the fact you mentioned he's the ultimate optimistic. He is. And a lot of times he propels over the forward. Now, Melanie, you of course voiced Lucy, and I want to know. Of course, Lucy can be a very snarky character, but we all love Lucy. But is there anything about Lucy that you identify with?
Well, when she says that she thinks there should be a day where boys give girls chocolate or something like that, something along those lines. I definitely like to be spoiled. And, as far as being mean to people, no, I was always on the other side of it when I was a kid. And I was always the one that was bullied. So
Duncan
no.
sent her some chocolates.
Duly noted.
When how did you two come about being part of this movie? Like, were you big fans of the Peanuts cartoon prior to that? How did you two get involved with this?
Well,
well,
yeah, go ahead, Melanie.
oh no, I was going to say our stories are very different. I was going to let you go first, Charlie Brown. And we've been asked this question many times, and our stories are completely different. So you go first.
Well, I mean, the movie was actually my personal swan song with the Peanuts franchise, because after Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown wrapped up filming, the next Peanuts special that came out was it's Arbor Day Charlie Brown, and when I was beginning the voice taping for that. Was when I was going through my life change from a young boy to a young man, and consequently my voice changed. So when the voice changes is when they change Charlie Brown's. So I had done two shows prior to Race for Your Life Charlie Brown. So I was, at the time that Race for Your Life Charlie Brown came into being, the voice of Charlie Brown at that time. So, there wasn't, I mean, obviously, you know, I would love to sit here and tell you that there was, you know, some sort of great skill involved with it, but you know, because you know, they used children's voices and they wanted to try to keep them somewhat consistent. And Charles Schultz, you know, lived, you know, in the greater area that both Melanie and I lived in, which was at the time I was living in Marin County, California, just north of the Bay Area. And you know, at school one day, I was at recess, just playing, you know, doing my thing. And on my way back to class, I noticed there was a line outside of a door, you know, to a room that I wasn't, you know, supposed to be in, but I just stood in line, you know, because I didn't actually, I didn't know what the line was for. I just stood in it because it seemed like the thing to do. It seemed something was happening and I wanted to be a part of it, I guess. So when I got, you know, to the front of the line, they were like, okay, well, great, nice to see you. What voice do you want to read for? And I was like, I don't even know why I'm here. And, you know, they were like, well, why don't you sit down and read a couple of lines for Charlie Brown? Sounds good. So I read a couple of lines for Charlie Brown. They were like, thank you very much. I went back to class and didn't think another thing of it. I don't think I even told my parents about it because I didn't actually know what I had done. A few weeks later, I get a call for a second round and then a third and then a fourth. And then after the fourth one, so these subsequent ones where I was brought into San Francisco into a professional recording studio, not just a tape recorder in some classroom, and done, you know, and did a more professional voice test. But again, these things were very brief, generally speaking, you know, a few lines. Thank you very much. They would pay me $50 to come in for my trouble, which, you know, for a 12-year-old boy in 1975 was a lot of dough. So I was happy to do it, and it seemed like a lark, and I got out of school early to do it a couple of times, and, you know, it was all great. But then after the fourth time, the phone call came in that I was selected for the voice, and then they were at that time beginning to tape "Be My Valentine," Charlie Brown. So that was my, you know, my lack of being in the right place at the right time and a lot of luck.
You know, I got to bring something up. You mentioned, you know, you were in the lineup, you got to the front and you said, you don't know why you're there. You know, that sounds like a Charlie Brown thing.
It's a totally Charlie Brown thing. Yeah, it really is.
Well, what's your story, Melanie?
Well, so my story is that my sister Robin Kohn voiced Lucy before I did. So she voiced from 72 to 74, and as Duncan said, you retire when your voice changes, and girls' voices change as well at about 12 years old. So one day they called the house for asking about me instead of my sister. They wanted me to come in and audition. So I went into San Francisco to the recording studio, and they had me audition for Sally, which is Charlie Brown's little sister, and for Lucy. So my voice was too deep for Sally at that point, and it was too high for Lucy. So I was kind of right in between. So they let me work into Lucy. That they let me start with Lucy, and then I did 4 specials, which 2 of them Duncan was in as well. Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, and You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown. And then I did 2 other ones. I did It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown, and It's a Mystery, Charlie Brown. And then a couple years later, they called me back to do Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and then that was it. I retired after that. But they like I said, they really, like Duncan said as well, they use kids' voices and they really want them to sound authentic. So when they start changing, that's it. They move on to the next voice.
You know, it's interesting because I was looking at the point of view of Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, as a film. You know, I wasn't looking at the fact, yeah, you guys had done the specials prior to that, because I was thinking, yeah, those are TV specials. I wasn't looking from the point of view they're not film, but yeah, you're right. You guys have been involved with it prior. It was always a treat at my house growing up. When a Charlie Brown special came on, you know, and you see all the characters. Did you guys have a favorite character, or is the one you voiced your favorite?
I think everybody loves Snoopy.
Yeah,
It's so hard to say, who's my favorite, because I mean, that wasn't always consistent. But I mean, if I just had to sort of, like off the cuff, who I liked best, although I don't know that he ever had any speaking parts, but I always liked Pigpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and of course you got, who was it? There was one of them, I remember they were dancing in a scene, not necessarily in this movie, but in one of the specials, and I think it was Pigpen that, or was it Pigpen that would do the switch back and forth with his shoulders going up in the air. And I remember my cousins reacting to that. They just thought that was the funniest thing.
You mean how they animated him dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but if you think if you really look carefully, that's how everybody in those dance scenes danced, and that was because of how they had to animate it.
There you go. So, what made you two leave the business after Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown? Because I mean, you mentioned it was your swan song for Charlie Brown. Did you not want to stay on after that, or did you have other endeavors?
Well, I mean, so as these things sometimes happen, I I think probably after Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown happened, and then it was, and they were starting to segue into the next taping. I got myself an agent, because I mean, I didn't know the business. One of the things that you have to do when you get into this business is that you join the Screen Actors Guild. That's really,
Yeah.
like one of the number one things that you do is join the Screen Actors Guild. And I will say that, probably the best investment I've ever made in my entire life was joining the Screen Actors Guild, because they have taken good care of me over all these years. But I got an agent and started to try out for other things. I mean, at one point I went down to Hollywood and was filming a TV pilot, because that's how they would do things, is they would film things and do them with test audiences to see how they worked, and if it worked well, then they might put it, they might buy a couple of episodes to see if it took off, and if it didn't, it would just fade away. But what I found for myself was that it was much easier for me to be off camera. I mean, I was, when I was on a sound stage and, there's no audience there for any kind of feedback, and you're basically, trying to inhabit a character that they're telling you about. And all you have are these monitors that are sort of off to the sides of the set, where you can see yourself in the monitor, but everything else out in the foreground is black to you, because it's just how they're lighting it and where the stage is set. And I got very self-conscious, in that kind of scene there. So I wasn't able to act naturally, as it were, for those things. And so, and it wasn't long after that I mean, I did get an offer for a part in a movie, but at the time they were doing the starting of the film, and they were calling people in to start that process. I was out hiking with the Boy Scouts, so. Just a missed opportunity. And shortly after all of that, I did Charlie Brown from 12 to 14. And when I was 15 years old, I moved from California to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Melanie?
Very similar experience.
Okay.
I did some auditioning. I did a lot of my stuff that I did prior to Lucy. I started in theater very young, at 3 years old, and my first gig was in The Godfather, that was on screen, obviously. And I did audition for some things. I did get into a pilot as well. They canceled the pilot before it actually came to fruition, which happens a lot. And then I ended up moving at 16. I moved out of state and away from my parents. So it's kind of similar story to Duncan.
Okay. Do you guys have, out of your specials, have a favorite?
Well, I mean, Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, was one of the last remaining quote unquote holidays that was available, for Peanut specials. You know, everything had already been done. So they were, you know, they were moving from, you know, from Valentine's Day to Arbor Day. You know, I mean, you know, so they were definitely starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel there for those. And so the fact that you know that I was associated with you know, such an iconic Charlie Brown special as Be My Valentine Charlie Brown, it is my favorite. Although I did really enjoy the process of taping Race for Your Life Charlie Brown. And in truth be told, I mean, I obviously was in You're a Good Sport Charlie Brown as well, but I've actually myself only seen that one time in my life.
What are your memories of Chuck Schultz?
Well, I mean, they are zero for me because I never met Charles Schultz. He was not involved.
Okay. I thought you said you were from the same area, but I guess
Well, we were from the same area.
Yeah, I didn't meet him either.
Okay, okay. I guess I was assuming that you guys have touched base. Okay, all right. My bad.
Well, he wasn't involved in the
worked with
television
the
productions.
producer.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, Melanie, through talking to Duncan earlier, before you got logged on here, that you've kind of become like an agent to him in a way. Talk about, yeah, talk about reconnecting with him.
Well, you know, thanks to social media, it was pretty easy. I started doing shows all over the country, and I thought, well, that would be kind of fun if, you know, I could get a hold of Duncan and see if he wants to do some shows with me. So I just got a hold of him through Facebook, and it was very easy. We reconnected in person in April of this year in New Jersey. And, you know, 45 years later, we just, you know, said, hey, how's it going? It was like no time had passed.
So when you guys go there, Duncan doesn't wear the Charlie Brown shirt and you don't wear the blue dress?
I wear the Charlie Brown shirt.
Wears the shirt. Yeah, he wears the shirt. I usually wear a blue blouse. It's kind of cool that balloon sleeves are in style right now. a lot of blouses with balloon sleeves. I do have a photo op. I have a psychiatrist booth banner. So and when I sit behind there, you can just see my top anyway. So, you know, with the blue top, it looks like her blue dress, kind of.
Those, I've never done a photo op, but judging from some of the cons I've been to, some of the setups for them are pretty fun. So it must be a lot of fun to do a photo op where where the fan gets to be the potential customer paying for your advice.
Well, it's funny because I just actually got it recently, and I've only used it. I've only had a few opportunities to use it so far, and it has been fun. I look forward to using it in the future, and, you know, maybe have Charlie Brown in there too, like if we do a show together.
Yeah, he could be sitting on the outside of it because obviously he can't be behind it. He's the one seeking the advice.
Exactly.
Right. Well, Melanie gives great advice, I will say.
Gives better advice than Lucy does to Charlie Brown?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about, you know, them being one and the same, then Lucy, aka Melanie, gives great advice.
Okay.
Sometimes unsolicited.
Very much so.
Well, talk about the con experience. Now, I got invited to my first convention in 2017. I got invited to a horror film convention by an actress I had interviewed, and I got to assist her at her table, and she and I has been friends ever since. In fact, I just got back from a con assisting her just a couple weeks ago. And I gotta say that opened my eyes to just how intimate and cool these conventions are. Talk about your experiences, and I'll tie this in with it. What's the most unique thing you both ever had to sign?
Well, The signature that I did at the last con, somebody came dressed as a Super Mario character, and they had me sign the wooden handle of their plunger.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that one was definitely the strangest one. I mean, you know, I'll happily sign anything anybody wants.
Yeah, especially since Charlie Brown had nothing to do with Super Mario Brothers. But hey, maybe
Yeah.
Charlie Brown needs a plunger.
Yeah, I guess so. It was strange, but so be it.
What about you, Melanie?
I don't recall having signed anything strange, but I can tell you I got extremely nervous when a young man brought in a piece of art that he had done that he was giving to his mother for Mother's Day, and it was on a canvas that was probably about 24 by 18. And you know, when you sign something that somebody brings in, you can't mess up. You know, if you mess up an 8 by 10, one of your own 8 by 10s, that's, you know, you can just tear it up. But you know, I was pretty nervous signing that because it was something that he had put a lot of time into and he was very proud of, and he was going to get to his mother the next day. So, yeah, the nerves kind of get a little nervy sometimes when I'm signing.
But it worked out, huh?
It did, yes.
There you go.
The thing you have to remember about the cons is that, you know, or that I have to remember is that, you know, that these things are for fans. And it not being from that world whatsoever, you know, being exposed to it, you know, the people that are coming to the cons obviously are coming for a variety of interests, including an interest in peanuts if we happen to be at that show. And the depth of knowledge that people that bring into it, you know, what I hear a lot from people was that you know, my voice and Melanie's voice were the soundtrack of their childhood in their own ways.
Nice.
And so, you know,
Yeah.
they really enjoy having that kind of connection with something that gave them a lot of comfort back then. I mean, obviously, you know, a television special these days, you know, it's hard to break through all the noise, but back in those days, as you remember, Greg,
Yeah.
you know, a TV special was a big deal. You know, I mean, they would be advertised in advance. You know, you would get your TV guide out and, you know, see what you'd want to watch for the week and circle the things that you wanted. And, you know, that was the moment that I realized that, you know, that, you know, this, you know, in my own 12-year-old sense, you know, what was a big deal to me was that, you know, I was now listed with my name in the TV guide. And it was just like, you know, this was like, oh my God, this is huge. You know, so these events from back then, you know, were really important to a lot of people, and that these fans get to connect with us at these events. It's really a heartwarming thing to do. I love doing it to an extent.
I gotta ask, what did your folks think upon you getting involved in Peanuts? Because I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
I
Melanie,
don't
you
know
wanna
that
take
we
that one?
realized it. I mean, yeah, I mean, we were only like well, when my sister started, they were about 7 years into the specials.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there had only been a few of them, probably 2 or 3 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, when my sister got involved. So I don't think that anybody realized yet how iconic it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think same
So
with me in the sense that I mean, Charlie Brown, you know, you would see the comic strip, you know, in the daily paper, and, you know, of course it was a must read every day.
Yeah.
Well, obviously everybody knew what it was, and you know, it really wasn't until the actual Peanut special started coming out with and our association with it in my own family that it was like, you know, it was recognized for the big deal that it was. You know, I mean, I remember when we got the phone call saying that I had been selected for the voice of Charlie Brown, we had an impromptu dance party in our kitchen because it was very exciting. You know, as the details of the contract became known and whatnot. You know, it was a surreal time for a lot of reasons. But, you know, but what's funny about it is that, you know, after it all happened, it wasn't something, because it wasn't my face, and my body on screen, so it became a thing that in my past. And so as I became, a young adult and into my, my 20s and 30s, it wasn't something that I ever really talked about. I mean, what do you do? Oh, by the way, I was the voice of Charlie Brown when I was 12 years old. I mean, it's a hard thing to, sort of bring up in conversation, even though it was a cool thing.
Right.
But now it's better now, because I feel like I have the space and the comfort with it now to be more affiliated and associated with it. Because it's obvious that it has legs that I didn't imagine that it would have.
Oh, absolutely.
And we realized, I don't want to speak for you, Duncan, but we've talked about this. We didn't realize this until we started doing shows, because I rarely talked about it either throughout my life. And when we started doing shows, that was when we realized how big it was and how many people it's impacted. And it's really humbling, and it talking to the fans. So we my husband will bring it up when we go out. He'll bring it up. I still don't bring it up when we go out, but he'll bring it up. He gets a kick out of it, and just seeing people's faces, seeing their reactions, it's just, it doesn't cease to amaze me. Even though I've been doing this for a year now, it still amazes me every time.
Do you set the psychiatrist table up for your husband?
Oh, sometimes we joke around when people ask if I pull the football away. He says only for me.
Absolutely. I don't want to give any spoilers, even though the film is 45 years old, but I got to admit, the ending of the film and how the race was won was actually really clever, because you're thinking it's going to go one way, and the film gives you what you want, but not in quite the way you expect it to be delivered. And I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah, it was a poetic ending.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed that, and it really says a lot for the underdog, so to speak. And but anyway,
One of the things you have to remember about this, Greg, is that back in 1977 when Race for Your Life came out, I mean, the days today, you can stream Race for Your Life Charlie Brown within a few moments, right? On your computer or whatever, or find it on Apple TV, I think is where they house now. But back then, this came out in the theaters. And when I was visiting my aunt and uncle down in Miami, Florida, when it arrived in theaters, and I went with them to the theater to see it for the first time, I'm sitting in a reasonably full theater, full of young kids and whatnot, and and there it is on the silver screen, and it was definitely a big deal and a big event at that time, because it was it sort of had that Hollywood feel to it.
What about you, Melanie? Do you
Yeah,
remember? Did you see
definitely.
it at the theater?
Sure, I did. Yes. It was definitely a bigger deal. I mean, seeing it at home was a big deal. Seeing the specials at home on the black and white TV, that was a big deal, because it was back when there were 3 networks, and like Duncan said, we looked at the TV guide, we saw our names. I still have a TV guide with my name in it that I've kept all these years. That actually came from my grandma. She was the one that circled it and sent it to me. But yeah, seeing it in the theater was definitely fun. It was a big deal.
So what has gone on since Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown? What endeavors have you two have pursued since then?
Melanie, you take that one start.
Okay. Well, I've raised a beautiful family. I have 3 sons. They all live in Vancouver, BC, and they all work in visual effects.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and actually my youngest was working for Wild Brain, which owns most of Peanuts, but he got a job with Disney Studios, so He moved over there this year. My oldest son works for DHX, and my middle son works for EA. So they're all really into the industry. Has nothing to do with me whatsoever. And I worked in the medical field for years and years, and then I worked for a number of years in radio, which I really enjoyed. I worked on air, and I also worked as a marketing specialist, and I would write most of my clients' ads. And I would ask them, would you prefer a male or a female voice? And if they said female, I would say, do you mind if I record your ad? And about 99.9% of the time they would say, yeah, for sure. So got to do a lot of ads on radio, which was fun.
It's funny. I'm going to add into that. You mentioned, for example, Vancouver and visual arts. It's funny because I interviewed Scott Diggs Underwood, who did 4 voices in Sausage Party. And he is from Vancouver, Canada, and he actually did the voices right here on the show. But I found that interesting. And you also mentioned, of course, medical field and radio. Of course, I'm a housekeeper at the hospital here, and where I keep things cleaned up. And I also do a show at the campus station here. I used to do my interviews down there, but after lockdown, Zoom became so much more convenient. I could just do from my apartment. So we got a few things in common, Melanie.
Yeah, it's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah. What about you, Duncan? What's been happening with you since Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown?
Well, shortly after Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, my family uprooted from California, where we'd been for about 8 years, and moved to New Hampshire. My dad had gone to Dartmouth College when he was a young man, and wanted to return back to the area that was full of fond memories for him. And so I became very much of an East Coaster for the better part of, I'm still an East Coaster. But I went after high school. I went to the University of New Hampshire. Got a degree in hotel administration, and from there went to work for Hyatt Hotels. I was down in Texas for 3 years. I was in Utah for a year, and then some family things happened, and I needed to come back to help out. My family owned a restaurant in Hanover, New Hampshire, for a number of years, and I worked in that, off and on through high school and into college and whatnot. And then after I spent some time in Utah being a ski bum, I came back and wanted to change careers, and went back to graduate school and got an environmental science degree. And right after graduation from Antioch University, I went to work for the city of Keene, New Hampshire, which is in Southwest New Hampshire. And I work in public works, where I have been for the last 30 years.
Oh, nice, nice. Since you two are connected, are you guys connected with any of the other Peanuts voice actors?
Well, I mean, we have met. We've met one of the Peppermint Patty voices. We've done a couple of cons with her, Patricia Potts, and she didn't. I didn't do any of the shows with her at the time that Melanie and I were doing Charlie Brown. It was the voice of Peppermint Patty was Stuart Brotman, and I haven't heard from him, in 47 years. But one of my classmates was the voice of Schroeder when we were doing it, and I am connected with him via social media. And there's another voice of Charlie Brown, Brad Kestern. I think is that his last name, Melanie?
Yes, I've done a show with Brad Keston, a couple of shows with a few shows with Patricia Potts, and then Todd Barbie. I know Todd Barbie from high school. Of course, I know my sister, and I've met Tracy Stratford, who was the first Lucy, but I don't keep in touch with her. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't know if you're finished with your list.
No, I just find it fascinating. I know a podcaster who I don't remember the name, but interviewed one of the Peppermint Patty voice actors. So that's why I was wondering. And if you two want me to, I can connect.
I actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I could connect you both to him if you want.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is another Peppermint Patty that I don't know her, but I'm friends with her on Facebook. Ginny Holtzman, I believe her name is. But I got a friend request from her boyfriend, and then I became friends with her on Facebook, but I don't know her other than that. So, you know, like I said earlier, with social media, it's just so much easier to connect with people, and not that we know them. You know, I've met Brad Keston and Patricia Patz, and Duncan has met Patricia and knows the Schroeder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Greg
But
Pelt.
other than that, oh, sorry, yes, and I do remember that name too. But you know, we just sometimes we feel like we know people on social media when we don't really know them in real life.
Absolutely. Well, do either of you get inspired, get a beagle after this movie? That sleeps atop of the doghouse and pretends to fly.
I'm definitely more of a golden
That's a
retriever
great
kind of guy.
question. I'm definitely a cat kind of woman.
I love cats. I got a kitty here, but he's avoiding this because he knows I'll stick him on camera if he comes over. I'm a cat person too. I love my kitty. He's a rescue.
Oh,
Well, what do you think? 45 years since the Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. What do you think? What goes through your head when you think of that?
I think that one of the things that's really cool about reconnecting with Duncan is that he's filled in a lot of blanks for me with my memories, because people always ask us, you know, about, you know, what was it like, this or that, and it's like, it was so long ago, you know. So it's nice that he can fill in some of the blanks, the missing pieces of my memory.
See, Charlie
From
Brown's
back
not
then.
such a blockhead after all, huh?
He has his moments.
Nah,
He fills
Duncan's a
Lucy in
nice
on stuff
guy.
she forgets.
Yeah, but I think Melanie's point is that, you know, there's been a real lifetime, you know, between, you know, the time that Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown came out, and in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had lives and raised families, and, you know, and you know, and all kinds of things that have happened. And yet, you know, this constant, you know, comes up in our lives. And I don't speak for Melanie, but I do know that she feels the same way I do, which is, you know, humbled that, you know, that we're part of something so iconic, and grateful that we got a chance to participate in something that was so meaningful to Americana.
You know, did you two see the
Definitely.
Peanuts movie that came out a few years ago?
I've seen
I got
parts
the
of it.
DVD. Yeah, I've seen part of it. I didn't finish it, and I haven't gotten back to it. I know it's been a while.
I mean, in
I
all
just got it
honesty,
about 6 months
for
ago.
me, you know, I'm much more of an old school animation guy, you know, and so when they went to the computer graphics, I mean, I understand why they did it. You know, it's a labor to produce an animated, you know, the way that they used to do it. But I just prefer the older animation style.
Yeah, I got to admit, I did like the new film, but I do have a love for the old specials and the films as well. So I agree on both. So, but I got to admit though, like I said, it's always funny. Charlie Brown always looked down on, but as you said, the ultimate optimistic, and I think that's what makes it allows him to succeed. You almost get the feeling, you know, if you saw these characters in their older life, Charlie Brown would have made out okay.
30-year career in public works.
There you go. There you go. And Lucy is charging an arm and a leg for her therapy.
Yeah, it's no more 5
Oh, I
cent
thought you were
stuff.
going to say I'm charging it. I thought you were going to say I'm charging an arm and a leg for my autograph now.
Oh, Lucy probably do that. I don't know about you, Melanie, but Lucy might.
Market rate, just market rate.
There you
Yeah.
go. Well, do you two have any charities that you want to plug and promote on here while we have you?
I just, and when somebody asks me, you know, I'm very, very happy to help out.
Mhm.
I did some, I've done museums and Shriners, and I'm actually going to be doing a con next year that's charity related. So yeah, whenever the opportunity comes up, I take it.
Okay. What about you, Duncan?
Well, I mean, I'm sort of a tree hugger guy, so most of my charitable work tends to be towards environmental organizations.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's sort of where my interests lie.
Tree hugger, like the kite eating tree?
Yeah, absolutely. Any kind of tree, any kind of tree is good with me.
You see, as many kites as he lost, you know, he's still going to help the kite eating tree. That's forgiveness at its best, huh?
100%. Well, they're just going to make more kites.
There you go. Anyway, do you guys have any form of social media or web pages that you guys want to plug on here for where people can reach you?
I'm on Facebook primarily, and it's at Melanie J. Kohn, and my name is Melanie
Mm-hmm.
J, and my last name is Kohn.
Mm-hmm.
And I put all my events on there as soon as they're promoted. I'll put them on, so you can follow me and find out what's going on. Duncan and I have a show on November 5th in Bellevue, Washington, Texas. It's called NerdCon, and then we got another one in January in Waco called ATG. I was gonna say AGT. I just switched that around. I'm actually going to be in Vancouver, British Columbia, in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be at Toy Traders, a big toy store, and then I'll be at the Vancouver Comic Show. And I've got a bunch of
Nerd.com.
other stuff.
Who's the
Yeah,
nerd?
so
Who's the nerd in nerd.com?
the nerd and nerd.com.
Yeah, is that Duncan?
I think it's James is the guy who's the organizer of the NerdCom.
I never heard of that one, nerd.com.
Oh no, it's called
Oh no, it's not
NerdCon.
nerd.com. It's called NerdCon, so nerd convention.
Oh,
Yeah.
nerd convention. Okay. I gotta look that up. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, all the cool people will be there because nerds are cool.
Well, that's what Revenge of the Nerds have taught us.
Indeed. And as
That's
far as
right.
getting in touch with me, it's all done through Melanie usually. I mean, you know, if you track down Melanie, you can track me down easily enough.
Well, that's how it worked for me, isn't it? So there you go.
Yep.
You know what? I was so honored to have the two of you come on here today. You know, like I said, I worked an overnight at the hospital, and then I come home. I was like, yeah, I'm so psyched for this, you know, and to have you two come on here and chat with me and share some of these memories, you know. And I thank you, Melanie, for bringing Duncan on with you. I mean, what a pleasure. I think that you're obviously a great organizer. You got Duncan in and show some major leadership skills.
Well, thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
grief, Craig. It was a lot of fun, but I gotta ask you, I'm seeing just the top of your shirt. That by any chance a McLovin shirt?
It is.
That's one of my honest to God all-time favorite things in a movie that I've ever seen was that character inhabiting McLovin.
You know what?
Oh, yeah.
I have interviewed Casey Margulis, who was the young version of Jonah Hill in that movie.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
The one that drew all the nice pictures.
I just think it was so funny that they had that he came with a fake ID that had just one name on it.
Yeah, I love that movie, and I actually that movie was actually where my crush on Emma Stone began, because I've had a crush on her ever since.
Understandable.
Aw,
Yeah.
you and millions of other men.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with Emma, though. She is. You can look at somebody, that's fine. Just look at pictures of them on the internet. Emma Stone is so engaging to watch. And even being
Yeah.
interviewed, she's just got, you can't stop watching her because of her reactions, what she says, and some of the different roles she does. You know, I could watch her I could watch her read the phone book. She'd probably be entertaining.
Well, Emma, if you're watching this, Greg wants to interview you.
There you go. There you go. I'd love to have her on here. But anyway, it's so awesome having you two on here. Thank you so much for allowing me the honor. And I was wondering if before I let you two go, if you guys would coordinate a plug for my show.
Sure.
Just state your names, and that we're celebrating the 45th anniversary of Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. And say you're watching or listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay. Hi there, it's Duncan
Go first,
Watson.
Charlie.
What's that? I'll go first. All right. So hi there, everybody. It's Duncan Watson, the voice of Charlie Brown from 1975 to 77. And we're here on Python's Paradise with your host, Greg Gilbert, talking about the 45th anniversary of Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Good grief.
Hi, it's Melanie Kohn, the voice of Lucy Van Pelt and Peanuts from 1974 to 1977. We're on Greg Gilbert's Python's Paradise, and we're talking about the 45th anniversary of Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Couple
you know,
of pros
folks,
there.
there you go. And folks, you know, if you ask Melanie, she'll give you advice, but I do not know what she's charging for it now. I don't think it's 5 cents anymore.
Oh, it's inflation. It's $20.
You two, thank you so much for allowing me the honor. And Melanie, I mean, sorry your visual couldn't work for us, but we got your voice. And you know what? I know people that listen to these in their cars, you know, and so it's great that they're going to be able to hear you.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, and I apologize that I didn't get the visual going, but I'm glad that I could be on here.
No apologies. You know what? It's one thing to have a visual, but if you can't hear the person, then you want to hope that the person understands or hears silent movie stuff well.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's a real pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, both of you. God bless.
Cheers.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.